characters looked dead in the water. But the genre was only sleeping.
I'm certainly not the first girl to play a woman character who fights to the death in a battle against a monster. There will always be men and there will always be women who are, forced to be that person. So Nightmare on Elm Street is about a group of 4 kids, teenagers, who realize that they've all shared the same nightmare.
Nancy, soñaste con el mismo hombre que yo.
Eso es imposible.
And they don't really think anything about it until each one of them, one by one, starts dying in their dreams. My character wants to figure out, why this is happening, who it is that's killing them. And so the movie's about Nancy's quest to discover Freddy Krueger and why he did it. He did it as an act of vengeance against some vigilante parents who killed him in a boiler room.
¿Quién eres?
Freddy Krueger was a child murderer, and there isn't anything funny about that. They kind of gloss over that later.
The creation of Freddy Krueger, this man who had knives for fingers, who would come to children in their dreams and kill them, was terrifying. It was just a terrifying idea.
I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street is the next quantum leap forward, I think, in horror. I mean, this killer that can kill you in your dreams.
Yeah.
So suddenly you have a slasher.
It crosses into the supernatural.
It was the blend of supernatural and slashers.
The rules of any sort of world don't apply.
Right.
And I think that's what made Freddy Krueger such a unique character. It just took us to a different place.
Wes Craven was a visionary, I think, in terms of fear, understanding what that could be, and maximizing that in these broad strokes, which Nightmare on Elm Street has.
What is one of the earliest things I can think of as a weapon that would have terrified human beings? The cave bear reaching around the corner with this massive mitt with daggers on the end of every finger. That's primal. Even the colors. I read an article on the 2 most difficult colors for the iris or the retina to see next to each other were those 2 colors. And then finding an actor who was brilliant and who could bring it to life.
Wes used to call Freddy the bastard stepfather of us all. But when I got the part, I didn't know what I was going to do. And the makeup sessions informed a lot of what I did. They were dabbing at me with that crusty brush and basting me like a turkey with Vaseline so that I picked up the light better. And in comes Johnny Depp and Heather Langenkamp, arguably the 2 most attractive young people in the world at that moment. And it got me angry and envious of their youth and their beauty and the fact that these 2 kids had their whole careers ahead of them. And I went, wait a minute, I can use that.
Esto no es real, es una pesadilla. No es real.
Of course, all my fights with Freddy were fantastic, and we would work on them for a long time. Once the camera was rolling, we got into our characters, and I bashed him over the head with a coffee pot.
I think the real reason it had such a massive audience, and still does, is every single one of the films has a really strong, well-written survivor girl.
So something really interesting about Nancy Thompson in A Nightmare on Elm Street is that it's sort of her breaking free from this chain of suburbia being this ideal because her family is broken.
Nancy.
Voy a atrapar al tipo que hizo esto. Y quiero que estés ahí, papá, para arrestarlo cuando logre despertarlo.
Tú solo dime quién lo hizo y lo atraparemos.
Fred Krueger lo hizo.
Her father, while I think very loving, is very inept. He refuses to believe her. Her mother's an alcoholic. She breaks free from it by destroying the home, thereby destroying Freddy Krueger, who came because her parents had killed him.
I guess I'd say my very first fans were young gay men, and they told me that they were using Nancy as they faced their folks or their parents or their families in revealing their true self.
Te juro que te voy a quitar toda la energía que te di. No eres nada.
And they expressed to me that it was just like, it was their Freddy, you know, just like that scary thing that they have to face, that they have to fight. I would often listen to all sorts of people talk about what their Freddy was. And I mean, it can be anything, I'm telling you, it can be anything. Kids who were bullied would tell me that they would use the images of Nightmare on Elm Street to help them face bullies in their life.
Creíste que te habías librado de mí.
Te conozco demasiado bien, Freddy.
You know, Wes Craven probably never knew how many people he was going to help by creating this Nancy-Freddy dynamic.
It seems to me there were several peak nightmares, that the first one was really terrifying, but there was a couple others way downstream that were really satisfying and did interesting things intellectually.
There's a lot of echoes to Kafka, you know, and that insects and other things.
Freddy Krueger is pretty terrifying in the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mira esto.
But he became a one-line reader.
Disfruta tu sueño.
Silly, funny, like puns and double entendres.
Se acabó, Jennifer. Vas a estar en televisión. Ahora vas a participar.
With a joke here, a joke there, a wisecrack here or there, it makes it easier to set them up for another dark sequence or another horrific thing or just a cheap thrill scare. Did we go too far? Sometimes, perhaps. And did we load it up too much? Sometimes, perhaps.